Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, hey, welcome into the program. And today on the show, we have a special segment. That's right. And our special segments, we normally try to keep them as, not mysterious, but we try not to date them, so that we can play them later and, it's not really that big of a deal. Try to make them last a little bit longer than any regular segment here, but we're going to date this one because, Valentine's Day is coming up right around the corner. And that's why we're dedicating this entire show to the topic of online dating. Not so much how to get you a date. If you're hoping for that, then I'm sure that there are lots of people that would love to tell you how to find love online. But instead, we're going to look at online dating in general. Is it good? Is it a bad thing? When we were preparing for the show and talking amongst ourselves here at the studio and, talking about if this is something worth talking about, so many people had their own opinions and had their own experiences with online dating that I thought, this is, I guess, relevant enough that, especially with COVID, and we have a little update here with COVID. A lot of the data comes from pre-COVID times, unfortunately. The past year, what little study there has been, we're going to update you with. But by and large, a lot of our information comes from the very beginning stages of 2020, and we try to make sure everything was, kind of more recent than 2018, I guess, was our big cutoff date. Because, so much of it was from 2005, Yahoo Mail, is it right for love? And that's just not what we're hoping for. We're hoping for something a little bit more informative. And you know what? It's going to be a fun show. So everyone, before we get started, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, past shows, future shows, show notes, any material that we talk about here in the show today. We'll, of course, have a link to it there as well. And, of course, we'll be talking about, who's been doing a lot of this research. But overall, I think computeramerica.com is the best place to find just about anything we do here for the show, including giveaways. And don't forget, the entire month of February, which it currently is, we are doing a Computer America giveaway for our 30th broadcasting year. So with that being said, everyone, enter the giveaway, check out our website, follow us on social media, and with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with our special segment. And unfortunately, I do not have a special segment jingle, so... So our first one that we're going to do, and this should take up most of today's program, and that has to do with this nice article that was written by, or at least researched by the Pew Research Center. And, I was looking for, a story here, a story there, surveys, so on and so forth. And then lo and behold, someone really did all the work for me. And I was like, hey, if we give these guys the credit that's due, or I should say these gals the credit that they're due, this answers pretty much every question that we had written up, and then a little bit more besides. But check this one out. This is by the Pew Research Center once again, and Monica Anderson, Emily Vogels, and Erica Turner. And they did this research and, with lots of charts and graphs. So if you're watching the video portion, you're in luck. You can see all that there. But let's just go ahead and do a little introduction and get into this. And let's face it, online dating has become a fixture And it's, from the article mentions its humble beginnings in the mid 1990s. Well, it's come a long way, and I think even more so with the recent pandemic. But if you don't know someone who has dated online, then odds are you probably aren't looking hard enough, because about 30% of U.S. adults have used online dating sites. I will say though, it does vary based on your age group, your ethnicity to some extent, as well as your sexual orientation and your location. A lot of these things can go into it, but let's just face it. Online dating it's not taboo. There's nothing taboo about this. It is completely obvious. And so let's go ahead and get started here. Today, 30% of U.S. adults say that they have ever used a dating site or app, but the experiences with online dating vary substantially across the demographic group. The article mentions, to begin with, adults under the age of 30 are likely to say that they have used these dating platforms. About half, which is about 48% of 18 to 29-year-olds say that they have ever used a dating site or app, compared to about 38% of those 30 to 49. So obviously this is starting to skew younger. 16% of 50 or over have said that they use a dating app. And of course there are niche sites that are for specifically 50 and over, and things like that. But by and large, it's still something that is growing here in the United States. And I think about half, and I would say that, 1 in every 2 sounds about right. At least tried to use these things. And then even going on from there, I'm sure that there's some people who, probably lied. Now, use of online dating platforms also varies substantially by current marital status. Fully 52% of Americans have never been married, said that they've used a dating site or app, compared to about 1/3 of those who are divorced, separated, or widowed, and just about 21% of those who are married or living with a partner. What that kind of says is that, well, first of all, the younger generations are less likely to be married in the first place. So obviously, the people who are more familiar with being online, and let's face it, between computer games and schoolwork and the job market, so much about that, the internet skews younger. There's a big problem getting older Americans to use online dating platforms, but still, getting them to trust it with something as personal as dating is still a bridge even further. Now, with that being said, although less pronounced, experiences with online dating also differs by education attainment and community type, saying that 35% of those who have at least a bachelor's degree have ever used a dating site, compared to 22% of those with a high school education or less. So if you are more educated, then you have attained, if you're more educated, you are more likely to have tried online dating. The article doesn't go into kind of say why that happens, but it is very, very noticeable and a statistic indeed. Now, the article continues. Roughly 1 in 5 online dating users say that they are currently using these platforms. So retention rate, and this is kind of an area that I was actually pretty confused about, because I was like, the ultimate goal, like, what is the sustainability of the online dating experience, or at least the online dating platform? What is the sustainability of that business model, where ideally the best possible outcome of your platform is that, well, they stop using it. Is that they delete the app, they stop paying for the service, they have someone, they're happily in a relationship, and it's all said and done. What is the feasibility of that? That your customer base is not a recurring one, but it turns out it actually is. And for better or worse, and especially with Valentine's Day here, it's a thing. So let's go ahead and talk about this here a little bit, and saying that some 18% of Americans who have ever used a dating site are currently using these platforms. So yeah, a sizable amount. And while another 17 report that they are not currently doing so but have in the past year, still a majority of people who have ever used these platforms report that the last time they did so was either between 1 and 5 years ago or more than 5 years ago. And you can see how, and by the way, those numbers, 26 and 38%, they're, kind of the further back you go, they have used them at some point. And I got to say that the numbers kind of skew a little bit more towards, compared to, let's say, what is that, 1 to 5 age year gap? There's only 26%, as opposed to currently 18%. I mean, yeah, that's an 8% difference in in a much larger time frame. I guess is what I'm trying to say. So the people who have used it in the past, this doesn't say whether or not they like it. But if you've tried online dating once, you are more likely to try it again. Now, people who identify as lesbian, gay, or bisexual are particularly likely to be current users of the platform, and that's something that came up pretty often here. You can see this, this chart here if you're watching the video portion. But the lesbian, gay, bi group actually uses these a lot more, and I think what a lot of that is that dating when you are not hetero is looked down upon. It is in some places. There's still a lot of stigma to it. There's still a lot of maybe your social circle doesn't think that you are you're not out as gay or something like that. Anyways, twice as many, by a percentage of the population, twice as many gay people use these dating apps than straight people. And I think it's the availability and the readiness to find people who accept your lifestyle. And then beyond that, even finding people who are the same sexuality as you, so that, let's face it, finding an app that you can just immediately switch to. I'm a man interested in other men. Being able to instantly find a bunch of eligible partners is much more appealing than going into, let's say, let's assume that you could go to a bar. Going to a bar and finding someone there. It's much quicker and easier, and of course, you can cast a wider net. So. Now, with that being said, at the same time, online dating users 18 to 49 are more likely than those ages 50 and older to say that they are currently using the platform. Men who say that they've used these platforms are more likely than women to be current users of the dating site. So even between men and women, men are more likely to be currently using it than women, which is another big part of it. What are the actual ratios? We talk a lot about online dating, but what are the actual demographics of these things? And I got to say, from that little statistic right there, and I'm sure later on in the article they discuss this, but I'm sure that there are a lot more men on dating sites than there are women. There you go. So with that being said, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I hope none of this gets taken out of context here. So I'm trying my best, I promise. Now, 39% of online daters and 12% of Americans overall have married or been in a committed relationship with someone that they first met through a dating site. Now, this is where a lot of the marketing for a particular service, the Match Group, which I believe is like Interactive Corp, I believe is the name, that actually owns Match Group. And this is always a fun statistic to kind of throw out there. Let's see, Interactive Corp. Interactive Corp. And I want to really go over this because I think a lot of people are surprised at just how big a conglomerate Interactive Corp is and what they really run. there's so many dating sites, and this is a complete aside, but there's so many dating sites that are out there that, you have your Match, you have, things like JDate, Farmers Only, you have Black People Meet, you have OkCupid, so on and so forth. Tons and tons of what is seen as variety. Turns out that a lot of those are actually run by Interactive Corp. So just so you guys know, and let's see if I can get this right. Let's see. They run, okay, one second. Here we go. Match Group. So Interactive Corp runs Match Group. Match Group is right here. Match Group. Dating services owned just by this one. So think about it. If you have an account with any of these, you are, of course, sharing your data with this company. Now, whatever Ablo is, Amorex, Black People Meet, BLK, Chutzpah, which I assume is a Jewish dating site, Dyson's Domain, Hawaii, which is formerly Harmonica. There you go. Hinge, Match.com, Meetic, OkCupid, Our Time, Plenty of Fish, Tinder, Twoo, and others. So actually, yeah, I actually did not know that Tinder was part of this group as well. But yeah, Tinder, Plenty of Fish, Match.com, OkCupid, all of these are operated by the exact same company. And of course, they are, well, yeah, they're pretty much owned by one entity. So don't be fooled by dating sites. There's a lot of variety out there, but really there's just one company that's doing that. But I will say, in a situation where maybe you are trying to target your potential match, maybe something like Black People Meet would be more appealing to you than Tinder or something like that. Yeah, and by the way, there's a couple more here I didn't even announce, but yeah, so just a fun little aside. Now, with that being said, so fully 77% of online dating users and 23% of overall Americans say that they have gone on a date with someone they first met through a dating app or a website. 77% of online dating users. So, man, 23% of online daters have never gone on a date that they've met online first. Why are they there? I assume it's, they've tried their best and they continue to try, but I guess there are some, and actually they said that about 1 in 4 Americans who have used a dating site or app say that they have never been on a date with someone they met through these platforms. I hope they are all beautiful and they just don't have time or something like that. Man, that is a little depressing, but a majority of online daters have never forged a committed relationship with someone they first met online. 40% of online dating users say that they have been in a committed relationship or married to someone that they met on a dating site or app. So, one of these statistics that's thrown around in advertising, is, especially through the Match Group, is half of all relationships start online. And that so far doesn't seem to be true. That might be on their surveys and data that they collected, but it seems like a very, very small portion of relationships are actually done. Like 12% of all relationships in the U.S. can be attributed to some form of online dating app or website, which is a very small fraction. Again, there are some updates with COVID, but at the same time, a lot of the connections that Americans are making are in person. So keep that in mind. Now, with that being said, we're going to try to keep the numbers to a little bit of a minimum now, but dating and its outcomes tend to vary by online daters' level of education. Now, with that being said, majorities across education levels say that they have gone on a date with someone that they've met through online dating, but these shares are higher among those with a college degree. 84% of online dating users with at least a bachelor's degree report going out with someone that they met on a dating site or app, compared with 77% of those from college and 66% of those with a high school diploma or less. So, college graduates and those with college experience who use these platforms also are more likely to than those with high school education or less to say that they've been in a committed relationship or married to someone through an online dating platform. I think one important thing to note here is that, especially when you talk about, there are, of course, people who have bachelor's degrees and graduated and things like that. But if you are surveying specifically those who are pursuing or are in school, that's going to skew younger, and that is going to skew those numbers a little bit more towards, college holders degree holders have tried online dating, especially if you measure those who are currently pursuing or have attained a degree recently, is because they are, younger. Now, the next part of the study, and you can see all that there. Again, this whole thing, if you want to see the charts and the graphs and all that kind of thing, we're going to have this there in the show notes. But the second part of the, let's see, real quick. There we go. Okay, the second part of this study is talking about the negative and positive aspects of courtship on the web. And this is the part where I was really interested in, because by and large, people seem to think that online dating is a positive thing. It's a tool, just like social media. You can do too much of it. You can get too engrossed in it. You can have fear of missing out. You can have, you can let it take over too much of your social life. It can control too much of you. And that is always a possibility. But when used appropriately, I think a lot of people who use dating sites are satisfied with them. That is shown by those numbers that we talked about earlier, that there are a large number of current and continued users, as well as those who have used it recently. There's not many people who have used it and then said that they were never going to use it again. Now, over the past 2 decades, the internet and smartphones have transformed where, when, and how people meet romantic partners. Overall, online daters are more likely to rate their experience in positive rather than negative terms, and majority of those users say that it is easy to find others who share their interests or wanted to meet in person. But users also described a more troubling and frustrating side effect of online dating, and this includes harassing behavior. From my own experience, when I've talked to people, and especially women who have used these dating platforms, it's very obvious why a service like Bumble exists. Bumble, for those you don't know, is a dating service that only lets women initiate the contact with men, and not the other way around, which by and large is quite the opposite from a lot of the other dating sites out there where men bombard women with harassing messages. Many of them inappropriate, and of course the results of that comes Bumble, which again only lets women initiate contact with men. So you can see why that happens. Now, let's go and talk about some of these, and let's talk about the overall positive experience with these platforms. And luckily, the majority of you out there, 57% of you, say that they are somewhat satisfied with their experience. Either somewhat positive or very positive, 57%. Now, a very negative or a somewhat negative response was about 42%. And judging by the numbers, and you can see this this chart here, judging by the numbers here, men seem to think it was a bit more positive than women, at least in general. Based on age group, the 18 to 49 demographic found it a little bit more positive than 50 and over group. And I got to say that that's probably like any other social aspect. If there are people there to be social with, you will probably be more satisfied with, kind of with your experience in trying to find a date. If there just aren't as many people, then hey, you're just not going to be as satisfied. Now, with that being said, the number skews a little bit down when you go to certain aspects of it. Straight people, the majority of them, 56% versus 43%, so that they had a good experience. The gay population actually was one of the most satisfied with their experience in online dating. About 65% of lesbian, gays, or bisexuals said that they enjoyed their time, at least had a somewhat positive experience with online dating, as opposed to 35% who said that they did not. Now, the part, and probably one of the most striking parts of the numbers that they found here, include high school degree holders or less. So people who have a high school diploma or less, unfortunately, had the worst experience in their view. 53%, so this time this is about the only one, the majority said that they did not have a good experience, whereas 47% said that they did. So still a little bit of wiggle room there in terms of, kind of what can be seen as a statistical anomaly, but still compare that to college, bachelor degrees or higher, and you have like 63 to 37% saying positive to negative experience. Clearly, it's about 50-50 right down the line. I mean, in some cases, 60-40. In a lot of cases, almost a coin flip for if you're going to have a good experience or not. But I think a lot of that goes into, what is seen as maybe desirable traits, and having a higher level of education, which means that you are likely to earn more money because you have the ability to get a better job. I can see how someone who has a doctorate being a much more attractive candidate on an online dating site than someone who has, a high school diploma or less. That could be, very, very much the reason why they have a much more positive experience with online dating. So let's go and talk about this. Current or recent users of these platforms say online dating leaves them feeling more frustrated than hopeful. And here's the big part. Clearly, a lot of people have success on online dating. If they did not feel that they were getting something out of it, they would not have users, and their user base would shrink. But there's a couple things working for them. Everyone gets lonely. The internet is the internet. It's so hard to escape, and being able to find a partner there is so very attractive. And yeah, right now, currently, your alternatives are just so slim because of, thank you, COVID. Now, with that being said, there are some pain points. And I don't know. I'm so conflicted about this, because there are things that the platforms do that make it harder or easier to find a potential match. One person was telling me about their experience with their, all these questions and surveys and, kind of points of commonality you're supposed to have with a potential match. And even though they paid for this service, it was still leaving them frustrated because there were so few potential matches. And, it's almost like the filter was too strict and they weren't able to find enough people to actually talk to. Now, with that being said, the opposite can be true, and you can find people that are in no way interesting to you or you interesting to them. And one of the pain points can come from, just people not finding anyone that you are compatible with, or that are lying to you, or doing so many other things. It's there are real pain points. So let's talk about this here. Online dating often requires individuals to make themselves noticeable in a large pool of other daters who either accept or reject them based on quick assessments. For some, this fast-paced approach to dating may have positive impacts. May have may have a positive impact on their outlook and self-esteem, and others may feel more spirited. Because let's face it, some of the most, some of the kindest, most successful, most engaging people in the world might not have the best face. And then the opposite is true, where someone who has an amazing face might be a total piece of crap. It really can go that way. But with online dating, it doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is that initial picture, that quick swipe, the swipe left, swipe right, your profile, maybe a couple sentences if you're lucky. The initial reaction seems to be what it is. And I feel like that's going to either inflate or deflate people in a not so helpful way, which seems to be one of those reasons why, these experiences with feeling frustrated or not frustrated really comes into people's minds, is that you may not, and hey, you know what? It may not even be your fault. You may be gorgeous as well, but you may take horrible pictures, or you may choose horrible pictures. And if you see hundreds of people using this app, thousands of people, using these apps in your area, and you suddenly get 0 responses, man, you're going to feel like trash. You're going to feel awful that there's so many people out there, and dating sites always want to advertise how many people are around you or near you, or, that you have access to suddenly, and no one wants to have a conversation with you. That can make you feel absolutely horrible, and, just unwarrantedly so. And then the opposite is true, where you may have fantastic pictures. You're there, you're swimming in your pool full of money, and everything's going great. You have great headshots, and everything's good, and you'll get a ton of messages, and you'll feel like, man, I am so desirable, I'm so great, I'm so lovely. And that initial reaction is not in any way a guideline to tell what sort of person you are, what kind of character you have, or even your compatibility or eligibility to be a good partner for someone. And having tons of matches doesn't necessarily translate into having a meaningful relationship. The two are very different. Now, they say that to better understand user experiences, the survey presented those who have used online dating sites or apps within the past year with 3 pairs of words, and asked them to choose the sentiment that they most likely match with how they felt about the platform. Larger shares, and you can see that here on the video portion, larger shares of Americans who are currently using the dating apps have done so in the past year say that the experience left them feeling frustrated, more frustrated than hopeful, and another 27% say that they felt neither hopeful nor frustrated. So only about a third of people, and that men, women, everyone, say that they had any sort of positive, hopeful experience with online dating, and that everyone else is just there, I guess, just to suffer, I guess. Other sentiments are more evenly balanced between positive and negative feelings. Some 35% of current users say that in the past year, online dating has made them feel more pessimistic, while 29% say that these platforms left them feeling more optimistic. Again, negative feelings associated with online dating seems to be a thing. And then, of course, you have 25% saying that they feel insecure, maybe people telling them that that they're not attractive, that they have certain aspects that are maybe pain points for them. But I will say that luckily, many of them, or more of them, felt like they were more confident in themselves after. So at least more confident than insecure. But then even the large majority over that said that they felt neither confident or insecure, or at least more so from online dating. Now, Online dating users across demographics report similar emotions while using these platforms, but there are some differences by race and ethnicity. Among those who use the dating app or websites in the past year, white users are more likely than non-white users to say that these platforms have made them feel frustrated or more pessimistic. So, white people just feel worse about this whole online dating thing. Now, majorities of online dating users found it easy to come across others who shared their interests or were looking for the same kind of relationship. And I gotta say that that's something that probably online dating does very, very well, because you ask them right away, what are you interested in? In a lot of these services, you say, I am a Christian, I am male, I am in this area, and I am looking for someone who shares these, who's a non-smoker, non-drinker, and, has a car and, things like that. The website can do very simple searches because, hey, that's what the ability of the platform can do very easily. Is this box ticked? Check mark. Okay, match these people together. That's the very easy stuff. But finding people who share similar types of interest or are interested in the same type of relationship, that's easy. Finding something that goes even beyond that into a compatible person or personality, into a compatible relationship, that's the part that I think leaves a lot of people feeling frustrated. Now, 71% of Americans who have ever dated, who have ever used a dating site or app say it was at least somewhat easy to find someone on the platform they were physically attracted to, including 28% who say that this was the very easy task for them. A majority of online daters say that it was very or somewhat easy to find people who share their interests, and people who they want to meet in person, and people who were looking for the same kind of relationship. So at least that part online dating seems to have. Now, with that being said, online daters' assessment of how hard or easy it was to find a compatible users varies by gender. And here's the part where I think we start to see some of the differences between men and women and their experiences in dating apps. It's very different. The male experience is not the female experience, and the female experience is not the male experience. Very obviously. Now, women who have ever used a dating site or app are more likely than men to say that they have found it very or somewhat difficult to find people they were physically attracted to, or seem like someone they would want to meet in person. On the other hand, male users say that they found it at least somewhat difficult to find those who shared their hobbies or interests compared to others, a female. So essentially, I don't know if it's just men have lower standards, but women were having a harder time, finding similar interests and things like that. But at the same time, women were more attracted to men in some cases, and it actually seemed to be the majority. I'm actually surprised by that. I did not know that the majority of women out there actually found men to be more attractive than women. I guess men are pickier when it comes to looks, but then women were pickier when it came to hobbies, interests, and shared likes. So I guess men are more visual and more, find someone who looks good, and then women find it harder to find someone who they were compatible with on a interest or type of relationship kind of basis. Now, with that being said, men and women who have used online dating sites have contrasting experiences with the amount of messages they received, and this is one that I think a lot of people really need to take in mind, especially men who may feel a little left out. This is probably one of the biggest parts where online dating differs. And this chart, I feel like, doesn't do it enough justice, but we can go ahead and talk about this. Now, some 57% of men who have online dated say that they did not receive enough messages. So men did not receive enough messages, 60%. Whereas women, 24% said that they did not receive enough messages. That is over twice the amount of people from one gender to the other who said that they did not receive enough messages. Now, just the right amount of messages, 36% of men said that they did, 45% of women say that they did. So about half of women say they got just enough messages. They weren't overwhelmed. They weren't, they didn't get too few. It was a casual dating experience. Men, about 36%. So about a third. So half of women, a third of men. And then you have too many messages, too many people reaching out, wanting to connect and get to know each other. And lo and behold, this part gets a little different. 30% more than was said to get not enough. 30% of women said that they get too many messages. Think about that. Whereas only 6% of men says that they got too many messages. That's that's a difference in like five times as many women fit that category than men. The survey, and of course the survey continues on saying that they also asked online daters about their experience with getting messages from people they were interested in, and these users are more likely to report receiving too few rather than too many messages. And while gender differences remain, they are less pronounced. For example, 61% of men who have dated online said that they did not receive online messages from people they were interested in, compared to 44% of women. It's really the takeaway from there, 60% of men said that they did not receive enough messages, as opposed to just about 24% of women. The majority of men walk away from dating sites, and again, that goes up to the previous example, saying that they feel frustrated. The majority of men walk away thinking, "Oh, I didn't get enough messages," and I would say that a good number, 30%, 1 in 3 women walk away from a dating site saying, "Too many messages, not enough people I'm actually interested in." Seems to be the takeaway. Now, for time's sake, we got to skip through some of these. Let's see. So, and by the way, all these are going to be here in the show notes if you want to check that out. But some of the other findings: online daters place a high level of importance on seeing others' users' photos, finding out the kind of relationship they're interested in, and so very important. Have a photo of yourself. 70% said it was very important. I can't imagine not having a photo of yourself on online dating. A similar type of relationship, so a committed relationship over, friends with benefits or anything like that. If someone has children, that was about 45% of people said that knowing if someone has children was either a deal breaker or at least very important to decide if they were having. So if you're out there and you're paying attention to this and you're about to make a dating profile for Valentine's Day or whatever, have a photo of yourself. Be very clear about the type of relationship you're looking for. Say if you have kids or if you don't have kids, and then from there, get into your hobbies, your religious belief, your background, your occupation, your height, things like that. But the key 3 things: photos of yourself, type of relationship, if you have kids. That seems to be the big ones. Going on from there, among online daters, women more likely than men to say it's very important that profiles include the type of relationship the person wants and all the other stuff. Men apparently just want a photo of people. That seems to be the takeaway here. Women are totally into what someone looks like, type of relationship, the kids, the religious beliefs, the occupation, the height, things like that. To give an example of this chart right here. Things like occupation, job. What is your job? Men were like, hey, 8%, that really only matters to 8% of us. Women, they're like, yeah, about 30% of us. That matters. Just differences. And that's really what it comes down to. Let's see. So other than that, let's see. Users of online dating apps generally believe embellishment is a very common part of online dating experience. So how often people actually lie about themselves. By the way, if you are actually looking for a committed relationship in online dating, don't lie about yourself. That's an important one. So people lying about themselves to appear more desirable, and this is how common people think it is. So not how common it actually is, because that's probably a very hard number to determine, how many actual liars there are, but how many people think this happens. 70% of people think that this happens. And people setting up fake accounts in order to scam others. About 50% of people think this happened. People receiving explicit messages or images they didn't ask for. About 50% of people think that this happens. And then, of course, there's harassment, bullying, and privacy violations, data breaches, identity theft, things like that. Online dating is not all sunshine and roses, unfortunately. Okay, and then of course it gets into non-consensual explicit messages between users, and don't do that. Don't do that. So with that being said, one last little point here that this research makes is that younger women are especially likely to be the target of harassing behaviors when using these platforms. So be careful out there. Yep. And I think with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on to the last part of this. Although I really do want to get into another part of the article that we're going to dedicate a lot to. Although, unfortunately, again, just going through this one research survey has taken up a lot of our time here. But this also talks about the, kind of the positive, negatives, that kind of thing when it comes to online dating. And we can run through this one pretty quickly. Probably sum it up here in this one graphic right here. Americans who think online dating has a positive effect say it expands people's options, is easier. Those with a negative opinion think it facilitates lying. So people who think that online dating is positive is because you get to meet people that you would have otherwise never met. You can evaluate people before you meet them. It makes meeting people actually easier. It can connect people who have similar interests, hobbies, interests, things like that. It's better than just meeting someone at the grocery store and just kind of hoping that they're single and hoping that they're interested in you. Those are the positive reasons. And then the negative reasons that they found include dishonesty, misrepresentation. So a lot of people lie about themselves online, lack of personal and emotional connections, which I think it's fair to say among anyone on the internet. Not having that personal connection is very, very easy to detach yourself from, through the internet. Some people say that it's better to meet people in person. Too many options keeps people from settling down. It's focused too much on the sex part of relationship and not so much on the relationship part of the relationship. Safety concerns and, so much of that. So with that being said, 50% of people who were surveyed did not care one way or the other. They were neither positive or negative. But then the other 50% were split almost down the middle as mostly negative or mostly positive experience. Now, plenty of success stories, and with that being said, it's what you make of it. Now, one thing I did want to focus on when it came to online dating is that there are a couple caveats here. And this article from MarketWatch talks about a couple of these, and I wanted to focus on some of these, including the fact that, hey, it costs money. Just to put some numbers out there for you, by the way, this whole industry is, I think, about a I want to say it's like a $2.4 billion industry in 2018. I think was the last number that was put out there. And that number is growing every year, in some cases double digits. Someone here is spending a lot of money for online dating. And in some cases, you have anything from $24 to $40 per month for, Match.com, $42 a month, eHarmony, $60 a month. You can bundle them and save a little bit more. You have Plenty of Fish and OkCupid that both run free dating services, but of course you can pay for extra features and extra attention and things like that. There are services that will actually, depending on where you're from, will charge you more. If they know that a lot of men are signing up or a lot of women, they might lower the price for women to get women onto the platform and raise the price for men because they know men will actually pay that to get access to the women. It's not unlike at all a cover charge that's at a club or a nightclub or something like that. And they're like, hey, men, $20, women, free, whatever. Same rules apply in large multinational corporation land. Now, with that being said, so it costs money. That's the first thing you should know. Second thing that you should know is that, a lot of people are joining this, saying that 16% of online daters are over 50, and among AARP membership, about 25% of AARP's membership of 37 million members are single. So, there's a lot of people and a lot of demographics that are unfortunately, either through divorce or losing a spouse, are going to be single, and this number is only going to continue to grow, as I guess the point here is that online dating is going to grow whether you like it or not. Like, even with all the negatives that we've talked about, it's only going to continue to be a thing, especially with, of course, the pandemic. Let's see. We went over a lot of this stuff. There's people can lie, people can cheat. The algorithm is not really set up to match you with someone who is super compatible, but rather just someone who shares a similar interest. That might change over time with these algorithms and the data. The data-centric way that these websites and services are trying to find people dates. That might change a little bit, but it's not there yet. So right now, you are going to match the people who have a similar location, background, and interests as you. Which to a lot of people, hey, that's a good starting point. Now, with that being said, data analyzing, and don't get me wrong, every one of these dating sites uses data and categorizes data, collects data on every one of their users. And hey, whereas Facebook may ask for your name, location, what school did you go to, what movies do you like, things like that. In some cases, like eHarmony, for instance, it actually asks you on average about 147 questions. And then, of course, things like OkCupid can ask you up to 4,000 questions. All of this is written into, written into their databases. And they collect that, they bundle that, and they sell that to advertisers. They know everything about you. They can extrapolate, in some cases like Tinder, they can extrapolate your intelligence based on your likes, your dislikes, your pictures, your locations, things like that. Like, I'm not talking like your education level. They can predict your intelligence, or at least what they think your intelligence is. And then, of course, they can match you based on people who they think are dumb or not dumb. They can match people based on just about anything that they can. And then, of course, they can package that up, sell that out to advertisers. Tons of data. That is the real point of these dating sites, is to collect data and data sets that just are not there from other sources. Now, with that being said, the article goes into some other stuff that we're going to pay attention to a little bit later. Okay. So there you go. That's that MarketWatch. We'll include that one there because it has a lot of good points to make. But we're going to jump into this one, and then one last word of warning for scams. Okay. this one from WebMD, of all places, saying dating during the pandemic. This was just put out about 2 months ago. And yeah, I was actually very curious as to how the pandemic has affected online dating. Saying that Match, a popular dating site, reports having record-setting past few months in terms of user activity, a 40% increase in people sending messages on the platform, and in fact, this past July was busier than Valentine's Day, saying our typical peak season for dating app usage. And yeah, I can imagine that this Valentine's Day is going to be even busier. Let's see, messaging on other services increased 30%. And of course, OkCupid virtual dates shot up 700%. There you go. Many places saying that people have started to reassess things in their lives and realize that relationship is a huge priority. What goes into that? I mean, let's face it, people have more time to communicate. People have more time to talk to each other, at least over the phone, if not actually meet each other. A lot of places are shut down. Jobs are on hold. And hey, what are you going to do with your time? Why not spend it trying to find a compatible mate? Now, a lot of first dates are taking place on FaceTime, Zoom, Skype before people take the leap in meeting in person, such as socially distanced walk. They say that I'm hearing from daters that virtual dating is not as awkward as they expected. So hey, that's something. That seems to be a new trend here. Is that instead of just meeting someone right away in person, text them a couple times, meet someone in person, it seems that they're having virtual dates first, where you are on a video call with someone. And then, of course, there's that awkward conversation that people are having nowadays, which with COVID, saying that each party needs to understand what the other person is doing, their attitudes towards mitigation measures, including mask wearing, disposition to testing or quarantine before meeting, and of course, hey, a big part of dating and being close to someone is that you are not socially distant. So, with that being said, to wrap that up, saying the silver lining here is that daters seem to be more interested in companionship than before and are slowing down on taking time to get to know each other because of COVID. COVID has, it seems to have pushed back the amount of people or at least quelled. Well, you can look at it a couple ways. Is either reducing the amount of people that are willing to just go right into it and have a casual encounter versus those who are saying, well, wait, because of COVID, we got to take time. We got to make sure that we do this right. Let's get to know each other and then we can meet each other. And hey, hopefully we don't catch this deadly disease that's, taking over the world. That seems to be a good takeaway from that. Now, with that being said, unfortunately, I have like a minute and a half left to do what should have been, honestly about the last quarter of the show. We're going to include this in the show notes here. The Better Business Bureau did an amazing job with this PDF here back in 2019, but it's talking about, some of the issues with online dating and some of the scams that can happen, especially when older people are especially susceptible to this, but what can happen when these things go wrong. Now, with that being said, they start talking about things like money mules, and this is what happens when, people say that, hey, we want to send you money, and then what happens there is that they send the money, and then they pull it back out, send it somewhere else, and probably take some of your money along with it. You become what is known as a money mule. You're laundering money for them, and you're sneaking it into the country illegally, and hey, even getting yourself robbed in the meantime. Things like that are very common among scammers, and some of the other scams that you should probably look out for include, and by the way, all this falls under romance fraud schemes. So things like drugs that you can, that people are trying to peddle through dating apps, business email compromise fraud, fake checks, credit card reshippers, grandparent scams, other frauds, and of course, things like bogus tax returns. And hey, I'm sure credit card thefts and other things like that. So there's a lot of things that you can do to protect yourself. Again, we'll include this PDF here in the show notes. But safe to say, there are scammers out there. It happens more than you think, and just be careful. Be incredulous. Be suspicious of people, but at the same time, hey, it's a dating site. Have fun. And I thought for Valentine's Day, this is a good time to do this. We hope that we have shared a little bit of knowledge with you. And hey, we've opened your eyes that online dating, it's popular, getting more popular. And, despite what I just said, it's not all bad. It's not all bad. It's getting better. And, give it a shot, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.